You ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1, let's go. Yo, welcome to the Elite Table Talk, where we unpack health professionals, business owners, entrepreneurs, and just everyday people, and looking at their lifestyle, their mindset, their routines, and we see what they have done to help them move forward and really just get more time back in the day. You know, most people say there's 24 hours in the day, but there's really 16 because we sleep for 8. But how do we get the most out of those 16? So grab a pen, get some paper, let's make some notes. Let's see what we can get from this episode today. Let's go. Yo, welcome to Elite Table Talk, where we're going to do things a little bit different today. We're going to talk about calories, macros, nutrients, a bit of hormones, because we are going to do a roundtable discussion with 3 other experts, in my opinion. The wizard himself, Mr. Reece Adams. We got Kathy O, the NLP breathwork practitioner who helps people on their journey. And then we've got Bianca, helping women understand their hormones. Obviously, that description does not give it justice. So we're going to go around this round table with myself, Karl, your host with the most, and they're going to give you more of a detail of who they are and what they're about. And then we're going to dive into 10 questions that most people explore when starting a weight loss journey, probably as they're going through it, the challenges, the struggles. And then at the end of all that, you'll have everyone's different opinions, which is really cool. So you can take it home for yourself. But then we're actually going to go through a 24-week journey. And so if you're someone who's thinking, I want to do weight loss, where do I start? This is the channel for you. And you're going to get 4 different takes from it, which is going to be really exciting. But also, we're going to challenge each other a little bit. So let's dive into this episode. Let's have some fun. And let's start from the top, because obviously Reece is in the top for me. Reece, give us your intro. Who are you? What should people know?
So, Karl, I'm based in Melbourne, and I've been doing this for 14 years, working with just people wanting to lose some body fat or just gain some muscle, all the way to competitors and working on transformations. And that's pretty much what I enjoy most, doing transformations. And yeah, just that's what basically got me into this space, is the ability to change people's physiques and I guess help them to lift their full potential.
Ooh, full potential. Well, talking about full potential, there's also another word that some would use called ambition. And ambition is something that Kathy O is very passionate about. So Kathy O, tell us more about you.
I love that you caught on to that. So let's define ambition, should we? Ambition is when you reach your maximum, you push yourself to your maximum, and you make that your new normal, and then you keep exceeding that. So I love to help people make healthy normal and just grow their ambition, not only for themselves, but for the team environment as well, especially in businesses. So I support groups and individuals master their health through mind-body breathwork practices. So breaking that down, mind-body breathwork, I come actually from a dietetic background. So I'm an accredited practicing dietitian in Australia, and a very scientific background. I used to work on the hospital wards. I've seen disease. I know diet-disease relationships. I know what's going on in the body on a physical level. And then this journey took me beyond that. What is happening on the level that we don't see? What's happening spiritually? What's happening in our mind as well, which is where I went down the path of neuro-linguistic programming and the subconscious mind, and delving into patterns as well. So it'll be really interesting to see how we all mesh together today at the table.
Yeah. And sometimes that takes change, and it takes the ability to step up and make those change and shifts. And that's why we also have Bianca, someone who's made a big shift in herself, her channels from LinkedIn. If you haven't checked it out, you definitely should. And so that brings us to our next person, Bianca.
Thanks so much. Yes, my name is Bianca. I am not in Australia, though. I am in the States. I'm outside Philadelphia. Go Phillies. Anyway, I empower women to achieve weight loss, hormone balance, and muscle tone. Throughout my whole journey, I think in the beginning it was really about physique, wanting to build muscle, burn fat, but through my own personal health challenges with PCOS and, experiencing different hormonal shifts in myself, I realized, holy crap, women need a little bit different support than men do. So I'm going to take it a little bit deeper for women. We're going to check out your hormones, see what's going on internally, and help you achieve weight loss, muscle tone, while crushing your hormones and living in sync with yourself. So here we are today, and I'm really excited to get into it.
And with that, I think Bianca should just take it over. crushing it. So with that, obviously myself, I like to make savages more savages by working and teaching people how to be a high-performing individual to obviously dominate life. That usually stems from lifestyle and habits. So as you can see, that's myself, and we have now 4 awesome people with obviously 8 personalities. But that will show really 4 distinct approaches to how someone can lose weight. So with this channel, you can obviously combine all of it or take one at a time. So get your pen out, let's dive in. So we're going to start with Reece Adams. I know we said we're going to start with Kathy, but we'll start with Reece because he's prepared. He's got pages of answers. So we are going to break this into 10 parts now. So we're going to start with question number 1. We're going to start from the top with Reece. We're going to all through 10. And through this, myself, Kath, and Bianca may ask some questions of how did you get to the answer or get them to dive a little bit deeper. So let's get started. Reece, what is a realistic weight loss goal for someone over 24 weeks? And probably to paint the picture, let's say we have a corporate female male, and like most people, we're on a journey. We slowly put on weight over time, and we maybe put on 10, 15 kilos or maybe 20 to the point that we're like, I've had enough. It's time to change. And so most people go too quick for 12 weeks and they fall off. So we're going for 24 weeks. We're going for that longevity. So to give context, let's say we've put on about 15 to 20 kilos extra over 5 years, and now we're looking to make that change.
Yeah, Carl. So look, the amounts can definitely vary, as I'm sure everyone at the table can agree. But realistically, what I'm typically looking at with clients is if the goal is fat loss or weight loss in particular, we're looking at about 0.5% to 1% of their body weight. So just because a lot of people like numbers, so that gives us a bit of a ballpark figure. And then that way, the thing with 0.5 to 1% is some people will give you an arbitrary number. Like you've probably heard the number 500 grams to a kilo. You should lose a kilo a week. But the problem with that is we've got, little Lisa who's 50 kilos, and then we've got Big Bob who's 100 kilos. So to say they're going to lose at the same rate is just it's pretty unrealistic and not very fair on Lisa. So basically what we want to think about is imagine you're 100 kilos. So what does 0.5 to 1% look like? So you're 100 kilos, 0.5% would be 500 grams and 1% would be a kilo. Now, if we look at that over a 24-week period, 500 grams over 24 weeks, we'd be looking at 12 kilos. If we're looking at 1 kilo, 500 grams would be 12 kilos. 1 kilo over 24 weeks would be 24 kilos. But there's a few things that we've got to take into account. So something worth considering is, do they have any holidays planned? So does this person over this 24-week period, have they got some events, some holidays? Because that's obviously going to play into the result. So it's something worth having a conversation about. And also, another thing that's worth considering, diet breaks. Is this person someone who can stick to a plan over an extended period, or do they find that they have a hard time adhering for long periods? I've had clients like that before, where it's like, okay, I can focus and stay on the diet for this long, but then all of a sudden, what happens is, diet fatigue starts to kick in, appetite gets really high, and all of a sudden, you start basically, for some people binging, or some people just, eating extra food, which can obviously start to unravel the plan. So these are all the things that you want to take into account, in my experience. And then based on that, you can obviously come to terms with what an actual amount might be.
Well, talking about diet breaks there, Reece, what over a 24-week period, so we got our numbers, but then what would be a good, would you say a diet or plan or structure would work best for that 24-week period? Yeah,
so what would work best is sort of, I guess, where the client's nutritional understanding is. Because I find that some people, if they don't have a great understanding of nutrition, just throwing them in the deep end and giving them macros might not be a great idea. Those kind of clients would definitely do better with a meal plan and educating them around, why they're eating, what they're eating, and giving them some structure to work off. So then they can develop those habits and then eventually move them to a more I guess you could say, macro flexible approach. And then eventually, for some people, if tracking isn't something that interests them, long term moving to, I guess you could say, instinctual eating.
Any thoughts, anyone? We're all good.
What do you mean by diet breaks?
Good question. So a diet break is basically a period of time where we increase food. It might be, it's not. It could be up to baseline or just under. I find that I don't always just go to baseline because obviously when we're dieting, we get some suppression of metabolism. So therefore, to offset that, and also if they've lost a bunch of weight, they're obviously small individuals. So then basically jumping them to an amount of calories that's more than they're eating and allows them to basically reset, I guess you could say, like the appetite and their focus before moving into another period of dieting again.
Nice. What about training though, Reece? So, should someone be training? Is for weight loss training, is training important? Like training, they say 4 times a week is optimal. Is that important on this weight loss journey?
Training is a factor, but it really does come down to, this is something I've sort of had a realization with. So I used to think to myself, like, training is a must. But if someone just generally wants to lose weight and be a smaller version of themselves, then weight training is definitely going to help. But I used to think it was absolute, but I've found that I've had a couple of clients I've worked with and it's just been nutrition, and they've been able to achieve their goals just nutrition alone. And for them, it might be, they like yoga or they like running. So I used to think that
Running.
that you must weight train, and there's definite benefits because building muscle is obviously going to help with increasing the amount of calories that you can take in and how many calories you expend on a daily basis. But it really comes down to, I guess, the individual and actually listening. I've become a better listener of what they actually want rather than what I think they need.
Can really see how you've tied that in from obviously it's all stems from the realistic journey of the person over 24 weeks. Like, what have you got planned? Yes. What have you got scheduled? Yeah, I can really see that coming through. Are there things to be, to safely manage any conditions? Like, if someone was to work with you today, are there things that you would put in place to help manage any health concerns? As you said, as you're dieting down, you do have refeeds or diet breaks to help bring them back, but you don't bring them back to baseline because there's been some.
Sometimes I might go to baseline. It just really depends on the individual. So just to answer that a bit more in detail, I guess, what I'll typically do is I'm not sure how their body will respond initially whilst I'm getting to know their body. So typically I'll bring them up to, depends obviously what deficit they're in, but usually I'll add typically I find 300 to 400 calories to be a safe amount. And then from there, each time we go back to baseline, I might go up a little bit more because, like, say, for instance, we've added that 300 to 400 calories. And Kathy, I've seen you post about this. Karl gives you a refeed and you drop some weight. So they're taking these extra calories and all of a sudden they keep losing weight. Cool. Let's add a little bit extra next time. So yeah, basically I just work them up, progressively increasing over time.
So are there any other health conditions during a weight loss journey you should be concerned about? So we've got diet breaks, anything else that you think could come up?
Probably the biggest one is just going to be like maybe their sleep might get affected, or their mostly hunger or energy during training. And again, that's where I find those diet breaks, or even just, it could be just a couple of high days a week. They might not need a full week to help with resetting and just keeping training performance or overall energy a bit more sustained.
Okay. I know for myself, for example, I'm currently doing a cleanse and it's day 15 and I'm just want to break it, right? So my motivation's quite low, but then when I've eaten, I've overcome it. For a lot of people on a weight loss journey, to stay motivated and overcome those setbacks, do you have any strategies for the people that you work with?
Yeah, so that's a good question. It's really going to come back to, I guess, setting them clear checkpoints. So it's like, okay, this is where I've got to get to, and giving them a point, because some people, they think, oh, this is going to be my life forever, especially when they start dieting, and that can be really overwhelming. So probably the best advice I can give is like setting checkpoints so that they can understand, okay, I just got to get through here, and then I've got X checkpoint coming up.
But just on number 5, which is checkpoints, how would you define a checkpoint? Are you saying them monthly? Because you, with realistic goals, you set 0.5 to 1%. So how often do you assess the checkpoints?
Yeah, so typically those checkpoints are going to be with females. I'll tend to do based on their cycle. So I usually do the baseline days, weeks, typically the week leading up to their cycle, because appetite tends to be higher. And then with guys, typically I'll try to push out 6 weeks. It can really vary. Sometimes it might be 12 weeks. It really depends on how long I think that person can stay locked in and focus. So that's probably my answer to checkpoints.
Yeah, okay. So female cycles and 6 weeks with guys.
Generally, but as you know, Carl, there's always exceptions to the rule.
Why are you looking at me like that? Huh? With your check-in points, there's something that we use as coaches. We often check in with our clients and monitor their progress. So are you doing that with your clients, like the 4 weeks for the females, 6 weeks for the guys, or do you do check-in points weekly, fortnightly? How would you manage that?
Yeah, so with online clients, I'm doing weekly check-ins, and then with face-to-face clients, I'm doing skin folds, and depending on their goals, it's weekly or fortnightly, depending on how fast they want to get going. And also weekly, typically I'll do initially just to get an understanding of basically the minutiae of their nutrition and dialing that in. But for the most part, it's weekly. But then with the face-to-face clients, sometimes I'll do it fortnightly.
Cool. And are there supplements? So we've gone through training, got the nutrition aspect or the realistic goals, and diets. What about supplementation?
So supplements, protein powder is probably, it's a basic one, but it's one that most people have a hard time with getting enough of. So getting enough protein in. So it's just an easy option for them to use. Then caffeine helps blunt appetite, and also it's going to help with their overall training performance or their overall output in general. But the caveat with caffeine that I find most people sort of underestimate is that it's a double-edged sword, in that some people rely on it too much, and you can find yourself waking up in the morning, you're a bit more tired, and it starts to have a bit of a negative effect. So I personally am pretty sensitive to caffeine, so I try to limit mine. I try to just have it on days where I'm training, or if I want to have one on the rare occasion, but I try to keep it infrequent rather than every day. But that's me personally. Then creatine, initially you might see an increase in body weight, but then in the long term, with the increased training performance and your recovery, you can the extra muscle that you've developed is going to have a far greater benefit long term.
Oh, wow. So there's your main ones. What just on caffeine though, because a lot of people drink coffee, something that they really enjoy. What do you mean keep it infrequent? So I guess if I was to reframe the question, it would be, I drink coffee, I have 2 shots a day, espressos. I like what Reece is saying. How do I make it infrequent? Because I'm going to get headaches and migraines, and I don't like that. So like, how does one overcome that obstacle?
Yeah, so if you're finding that you're prone to headaches from 2, typically I find 2 is not, an excessive amount. I've come across people who have been having 6 a day. In that case, you definitely just want to taper it down
the double
slowly.
shots, come on. So that's 4 shots.
But in terms of like what I mean by infrequent, it's like typically, every other day, or just days that you're training. So for me, I train 4 days a week. So I just have caffeine 4 days a week. So that's basically what I mean by infrequent. And you would just taper down. So you might go, if you're having 2, you might just go, okay, every second day I might just have 1, and then every other day I'm having 2. And then if you find that you feel amazing doing that, you can then try to go to one every day. But it's one of those things where for some people, they have less side effects from the caffeine than others. So it really depends on the individual. If you're finding that you're feeling burnt out, then it might be something worth looking into.
Yeah, okay. Well, on side effects, for a lot of people, it's a weight loss journey. When am I going to get my side effects of weight loss? Tell me, because I'm doing this whole calorie counting and it's not quite responding in 3 days. I haven't lost the 5 kilos. What's that about? So when would you, if someone was to do what you're saying, how soon would they expect to see the changes or the shifts?
So visually, it depends on someone's starting point, because the more body fat you've got, the changes are going to be less noticeable visually. But and that's why I like to use the numbers of the 0.5 to 1%, because typically the scale will tend to move a lot quicker than those visual changes. So that's basically, and the other thing, there's going to be daily fluctuations. I'm sure we're all aware of that because we've all weighed ourselves, assuming for periods of time, and you see the scale all over the place. Now, that's why we want to track 2 different numbers. So one of the numbers would be our average body weight across the week. So we get basically the total and get the average. And then the other would be if we have a goal of fat loss or weight loss, what's the lowest low for the week? I always like to keep an eye on that one as well.
So we're looking at, so for most people, they just typically looking at themselves like, no, it's not budging. You're looking at scale weight and also averages. So to qualify, yeah, your weight's gone up. However, across the average, it's actually gone down.
Yes.
Cool. Obviously, with nutrition, there are side effects. Like you said, with coffee, cutting calories too much. How can one prevent or manage any potential side effects through muscle loss or nutrient deficiency?
So when it comes to muscle loss, probably 2 biggest players we've got is adequate protein, and then the other one we've got is weight training. So if you're not weight training, obviously that one's out. Then you'll just focus on getting enough protein. Whereas if we're looking at nutrient deficiencies, what I'd recommend is a variety of foods in your nutrition, as well as fruits and vegetables, just to make sure that you're covering your micronutrients as well as your macros and your calories.
So with that, we've lost Pudgy Karl, thanks Reece, has lost the weight. Thank you, sir. Doing my yoga, no longer weight training. I've lost a bit of muscle, but I'm okay with that because I've lost the weight. Though, what should I expect or do or focus on after the 24 weeks? So I've dropped the 12 kilos based off your percentages. So I've gone from 110, now sitting at 98, happy as Larry, but I still want a bit more. What are the things you would be recommending or suggesting after that 24 weeks? Like, should I just keep doing it for another 24 or what?
This is a great question. So a lot of people mess up here and often end up back to where they started, or sometimes worse off.
Karl, you messed up.
But in terms of long-term success, it's about educating the client through the process. So rather than just here's the plan and follow the plan, I think education should be a big part of that process. So the better the client understands the nutrition, the process overall, and how it makes them feel, the better the choices that they're going to make long-term. Because when we know better, we tend to do better. So with that said, to be able to maintain the result they've achieved at the end of the 24 weeks, it really depends. It does need to be an educational process that gives them the tools to maintain, but even improve into the future if they've understood and been educated through the process.
Yeah, awesome. So really, in summary, if we were to summarize all of that, we're going to educate the people on the journey through realistic expectations with regular check-ins, face-to-face or online, but then also have a check-in point for females around their cycle to manage expectations on their appetite. And then also for the guys, typically around 6 weeks, regardless of them doing weight training or yoga or just living their best life. That's where you really start with them from the beginning. But even at those check-in points in that 24 weeks, you're still doing the same thing, educating and upskilling them so they can help themselves. Yeah.
Well summarized.
Yeah.
Well summarized.
Well,
I didn't need to say all that other stuff. You've just nailed it, Karl.
helps when you write it all down, right? Awesome. Well, thanks for that, Reece. Hey guys, thanks for tuning into that episode. Hope you really enjoyed it. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel and also to share so we can help more people. Now with your pen, you've probably written down heaps of things, but the things like myself, like there's blank pages, but pages, got lots of notes. What are the top 3 that you got out of today's episode? If 3 is too much, action on one thing and just see how it goes for you for this week. And make amendments and adjustments so you're constantly improving and refining and moving forward in your health, your training, your life. If you ever get stuck, reach out to us at info@vitruvianhealth.com.au. Always here to help. Till next time, adios amigos.